Yep. Put that thing away.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Reseller Show, session number 18. My name is Andy Lawrence.
And I'm standing in for Kev. I'm Matt Webley.
How's it going this evening? It's great to have you with us this evening. We've already got off to a fantastic start. Oh dear, Matt's got the giggles, and we've already had a good laugh. So I'm glad you will all be here to join us this evening. This is the second episode we're streaming live on YouTube compared to normally on the Webinar Jam platform. So it's a bit of a we're figuring it out as we go, but it's all good fun, and hopefully you'll be able to see us on YouTube and see us on Webinar Jam if that's where you're watching and listening from at the same time. Now, Matt, you are standing in for Kev. Kev's on his holly bubs at the moment, isn't he? He's off skiing.
I know. I noticed he was skiing, and it made me jealous because I'm not going skiing for the first time this year in I don't know how many years. Yeah, like, it's literally the first time for years I've not gone skiing. And I saw a picture of him in Morzine or wherever it is in France, I think, and I was like, no, I don't usually get jealous. In fact, I never get jealous. But I tell you what, that was enough to make me go, damn. I wish I was there.
You got some FOMO going on, did you?
Some FOMO, yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is. Excellent. Now let's see if we can find the chat on the YouTubes as well, because this is I should have set this up beforehand with the live chat. But oh, there we go. I can see it right here. Simon Hurrell's joining us and says, "Evening, guys."
How do I get that up then?
That's you, isn't it? Yeah.
I can't see it. That's okay.
Chris is in. Chris is here saying evening all. Sean's in as well. How's it going, Sean? Good to see you. So we've got a few people joining us live in the comments. I don't know if you can see that.
No, I don't know. I can't see it. I don't know.
Well, if you wanted to look at the comments, just search for Reseller Show on YouTube, and then you should be able to watch the stream on your phone. You'll see the comments on the side from there if you wanted to do that. But while I'm going to say Kev, I better get it out of the way now. I'm definitely going to call you Kev tonight.
You are definitely going to call me Kev because you call me Kev even when I'm not standing with Kev. So you're definitely going to call me Kev today.
I think it's bound to happen. I just think we'll get that out of the way. It happens far too often. I must
Jim,
admit.
it's fine. Jim, it's okay.
They're two short names, and I must admit, there was a 2-second wait there where my brain just went, Brian, Arthur, Kev, Matt, there we go, got it.
It's all right, Billy, don't worry.
I think it's going to happen. So I'll tell you what we'll do, just to keep count. I'll get the Reseller Show. I'll get the Reseller Show bell out. So every time I say your name wrong, you can get one of those.
Well, here's the deal, right? You are actually trying to say it wrong 0 times. So you win if you say it 0 times. I win if you say it twice.
Okay. That sounds. I will attempt to call you Matt for the entire duration of this show. So we'll see how we get on.
Cool.
I don't fancy my chances, to be honest with you. Not when you're officially in Kev's shoes.
I am not as good looking as Kev, so
he's a very handsome man. I must admit, he's got big shoes to fill. But hopefully, he's enjoying himself. He might be tuning in. Whoever knows?
I don't know if it's him that said it, but in Webinar Jam, the actual chat thing, it says Kev Blackburn. So I don't know if he's there.
No, that's me. I had to log in under his admin user ID to make sure this show worked. So yes, I'm technically Kev tonight under the user IDs, but yeah, just to confuse things even more. Right. So who have we got on the chat? We've got good evening, boys. Sam's on board. Good to see you, Sam.
How do I get it up? How do I get it up on? I'm on the Reseller Show on YouTube, but
we should sell it. If you're watching the video, the live chat should be on the right.
No, I can't see the video. I can't see where the video is. No.
If you just click on the video and then click on mute, you should be able to watch it live. Don't know why you can't see
it. Says Brexit. The last thing I can see is Brexit.
Yeah, no, that's on the. Yeah, that's not the live one. That's the last week's one. So
yeah, there's nothing else.
Yeah, okay. Don't know. I can't answer you on that one. But okay, not to worry. We've got some people in the live chat this evening. I shall relay some comments for you from this side. But yeah, so we've got a few things to chat about this evening. We'll have a chat to Matt anyway, because he's here and he's very kindly jumped in for Kev this evening. So we'll have a chat about what he's been up to recently and what he thinks on a few of the news subjects. As always, if you've got any comments or questions, stick them down in the live chat and we'll see if we can answer them at the same time as we go along. But we've got some news. We might as well start off with the news. Some big news this week because Keepa has finally decided to go with a subscription service, and we all just suddenly, without any notice at all, realized that they're asking for, is it €15 a month now for their Keepa data, which was a bit of a shock, wasn't it, to be honest with you, Matt?
Yeah, I tell you what, I've been saying literally for years, I've been saying, I can't believe that Keepa is free. How can they give this much value and charge nothing for it? They definitely should be charging for it. But I think inadvertently, I started some kind of butterfly effect or something, and they've ended up charging for it, which they needed to do. Keepa is an amazing service, and it needs to be supported. Having said that, the way they communicated the issue was pretty poor. It was basically, yesterday it was free, and today it's not free. And I think that's where some people got a little bit,
yeah.
You know, it's not, nobody denies that it's worth €15 a month. If you're a professional online arbitrager, wholesaler, reseller on Amazon or whatever, then it's 100% worth the money. But the fact that it was free one day and paid the next day, it's just a shock. Just a shock.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think none of us were ready for it. They didn't mention it, and suddenly people are logging on and they're asking for money. So yeah, absolutely. I don't think can be many people that don't say that it's well worth the money. It's worth triple that, to be honest with you. Oh, yeah. It's made a lot of people a lot of money, and yeah, I was surprised they haven't done it sooner. And yeah, I've said many times, it's probably one of the best tools, probably top 5, probably top 3 tools you can get in our industry for actually putting money in your pocket. And yeah, they absolutely should be 100%.
100%. Yeah. I'll tell you what, we pay Keepa €439 a month. Mm-hmm. So as a customer, but that's because can I say it? Can I say it?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, who's
me and Karen. So I'm co-creator of BuyBot Pro. So that's BuyBot Pro, and that's piece of software that helps analyze deals. And as part of that software, in fact, it's the only software in the world that analyzes a deal for you. So Keepa gives you the information, and there are other calculators out there that give you the information, but I forgot the name of my own software. BuyBot Pro actually analyzes the deal for you. And as part of that, we pay Keepa like €439 a month to get the data that we can use to then manipulate and kind of analyze the deal and stuff. But obviously now it's not just gone from business to business kind of thing with their charging model. They've gone business to consumer. And my guess is they're probably going to quadruple their profits overnight. Really good business move on Keepa's point of view. And like we say, €15 a month is an absolute steal. If you can't make money, it's an essential tool, really. Even if you're using something like BuyBot Pro, you're still going to want to use Keepa, or at least something like it, aren't you?
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I mean, I signed up within the first few hours of seeing it. I was interested and intrigued as to where it came out of nowhere, but not at one point did I think I wasn't just going to subscribe. And it's almost, I know they're probably a relatively big company, but I don't really know much about them. But I almost think it's like I should be supporting them because they've done a lot for my business and helped me make a lot of money on Amazon. So I almost feel like there might be ways around it. There's other free tools, and I've heard people talking about ways to get around it and stuff. And I'm sure they will be temporarily before they close gaps and things like that. But yeah, I think we should support them. It's a great piece of kit. If it ever went away, people will be making much more of a fuss. That's for sure. So yeah, I'm quite happy to support it. And yeah, their profits would have gone within 24 hours. They would have gone from there to like there very quickly. Oh, yeah. But yeah,
big time. They're going to be kicking themselves for not doing it years ago.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I wonder why that was. It was either incredibly clever and they've done the whole get people high off their supply for a bit and just spent years people using it and integrating it into their business and going, oh, by the way, if you want to carry on, you can pay for it, which was genius if they did. Or they just didn't realize the power of what they had for some time. And you know, I think originally it was like camel, where they're using the data to help people buy stuff for themselves rather than as a reseller tool, I think. So it's kind of evolved into this thing. Yeah. Reseller community have kind of taken it and used it for their own devices almost. So it'd be interesting to know how that came about and whether they just went, hold on a minute, loads of people are using this, we should charge for it. But yeah,
oh, that would be a great story to hear. But yeah. I think assuming that some big competition doesn't come in and steal their thunder, you know, because I've heard there are free alternatives out there popping up, and I've heard there's other people trying to move into the market. I've heard all kinds of things happening, but we'll have to see what happens with it. Definitely an interesting story. Definitely a story I'd love to hear about. But it is what it is.
Yeah, maybe we can reach out to them and see if we can find someone to chat to about how that whole process went out.
I know somebody that knows them.
Ah, excellent.
And knows them well, but I don't know whether that's something that can happen or not. But
yeah, well, we can ask the question, can't we? It'd be interesting to have that chat if they're interested to come on and talk to us about that. That would be awesome. But yeah, so that's pretty. That's been the subject of most people's conversations this week. Anyway, there has been some interesting. Comments on the groups, and some people are angry. I can't believe some people are angry. It's not.
I know. So somebody said in my group earlier, they were like, "Oh, everybody's been angry in the groups and stuff." I'm like, "What? I've not seen any of it because I don't go in many groups." Like, how can you be angry at the communication? Maybe, and angry is not the right word. Frustrated at the way it's been communicated. I understand. Yeah, because like one day it's free, next day it's costing you €15 a month, and there was no heads up. There was no in a month's time we're going to charge or anything like that. So poor communication. But how can you be angry at them when you've had? I mean, let's say you've been online arbitraging for a year. You've had access to one of the best tools, undeniably one of the best tools, one of the most essential tools for free for all that time. It's almost like we owe them some money. Do you know what I mean? We owe them.
Yeah, that's it. I think so. And to be honest with you, at €15 a month, they will struggle to get competition. If someone came in and tried to create something at €5, it's just like they do the job. And I would be interested to see someone do that better. To be honest with you, there's always ways of improving things, but it works so well, and you've got so much information at your fingertips there. I don't see how they could get knocked off just by saying we want some money now. I think they're in a pretty safe position, to be honest with you. Sam's been in the chat and he said Buybot Pro is very impressive, Matt. I've had it for a week now after Andy reviewed it and I'm very impressed. So that's
cheers, Sam. Cheers, Sam. Appreciate it. I'll tell you what, it's cost a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort, and we've molded it and crafted it, and I honestly believe from the bottom of my heart, it's the best tool in the market by far of its kind. And I genuinely believe it's redefined and created a new market. It's not just like another FBA calculator. It actually attempts to do the analysis for you. And I would say it does it in a more sophisticated way than 99% of your typical resellers do. So like, even if you're a veteran and you know it inside and out, there's still going to be little bits and bobs you miss. And I was shocked by how complex the algorithm is. And no tool's perfect, but as far as like analysis from a extension from an app goes, there is nothing like it. So I appreciate that. I know Karen will as well, because Karen's poured tons of hard work into it. But loving the kind words. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no, it is. I must admit, I mean, I'm not just saying it because you're a mate, but you know, that software compared, I've had a crack at a lot of them, and in my experience it is almost spooky that it's software telling you these things, because it could easily be someone just writing you a note saying, by the way, you know, the sales price is a bit unstable in the last 90 days, and maybe you should have a look at this, and maybe you should have a look at this. And in terms of OA, if you're making a lot of deals and you're turning over a lot of volume, you've got lots of stuff going on, it's really handy to have the backup of someone saying, just check that metric before you go on. It's just a useful belt and braces thing. Even if you know that information, you could easily miss something whilst going through making decision after decision.
Well, I've heard people say BuyBot Pro's best for beginners, and I thought you're totally missing the point if you think it's it's great for beginners. I think it's essential for beginners because it doesn't allow you to screw up, kind of thing. But for veteran sellers, I mean, it's checking eligibility, break-even point, it's suggesting a purchase quantity, it's checking Keepa, it's checking competition, estimated sales. It's doing a bunch of different things, and it's all in one click within 7 seconds. So like, even if you're a veteran seller, to check all of those things plus loads I've not mentioned, it's going to take you 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. When those deals hit and there's some sale on, and you know that stock's going to start selling out, especially with OA, it's going to start selling out. And you're trying to do it all manually, and you're checking, are you eligible to sell it? Yeah. You're doing all this, you're doing all that, you're doing your calculations. Somebody else is just using BuyBot Pro, clicking a button. 7 seconds later, they've checked it all, and they've gone through 30 products in the same time it's taken you to do one. So it's like a no-brainer. And even if you're a veteran seller, you're gonna miss things. You get tired. You know, you get a little bit gambly. I know what I used to. If I'd not found a product to source for a few hours, and I'd get a little bit gambly. I've got money to burn. I'm like, I want to buy it. I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to anyway. Or BuyBot Pro will slap you around the face and say, look, price is unstable. You're gambling. Don't do it. And I think veteran, beginners, I mean, I'm not here to pitch. Definitely not. And Andy's not said anything, but like, I genuinely, from my bottom of my heart, think it's an essential online arbitrage tool. I genuinely do.
I agree.
Use Andy and Kev's link.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll put a link up in the show notes if you're interested, because honestly, it is a very useful tool. I've reviewed them all. I haven't actually put my review on the Wholesale Help channel yet. I wanted to use it for a little while first, just to get a real comprehensive review for everyone. But I have reviewed it for the Wholesale Domination students. I went through it and explained it, and yeah, I would agree with everything you said. And not only that, people say it's useful for beginners. I would go the other way and say, if you're a beginner, you need to understand the decision-making process inside and out before you lean on software. You have to really understand that process first. And then you can use software, because you can't rely on software 100% of the time, because you have to know why the software is telling you this first. So learn the decision-making process manually, learn to do everything manually, and then use software to help you make the decision faster, and to be a belt and braces approach. And even for me, I think it's really useful. I mean, primarily it's useful to have the breakdown of the costing, and to be able to bosh a cost price in there, and to get your numbers out really quickly. But whilst you're doing that, you may as well have all that data right there and then. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing better that does it in that way anyway. I think it's been very well done. But after we won't labor the point too much, or else it might sound like a commercial. It is yes, I've been in this game for too long to be blowing smoke up people's area. So it is what it is. If it's rubbish, I would tell you.
If it was rubbish, I'd want you to tell me. I know it's not rubbish. But thanks anyway, Sam. And sorry if it seemed like a commercial. It was never intended that way.
Yeah, Simon Hurrells just said, I've tried a few, and BuyBot Pro is the only one still on my computer. So there you go. You've got another endorsement from Simon.
Cheers, Simon.
So yeah, that's all good. So moving on from the Keepa side of things, it has been Has been fun chatting about that. We've got a few questions because actually talking about Simon, we did have a question from Simon during the week in the Reseller Show Facebook group. That's quite an interesting one because Simon got an inbound performance notice about some items that should have been poly-bagged. And he's saying they were poly-bagged, but obviously he can't prove it. They've gone in, they've said, you haven't, you got this performance warning. And so they make you sort of agree to it, to undertake that you won't do it again. And so he's just asked the question, something to discuss tomorrow. Do people have tips for this sort of thing? Should I take photos of how items are packed, etc., or is it not worth the effort? It's an interesting point, really. How do you prove how things have been packed before, once they go in the boxes and once they go off? Did you have any sort of process in place, Matt, before things went off to the courier, or did you just prefer to keep it as streamlined rather than spending too much time on that sort of thing?
We used to polybag everything. Okay. So not every product. I don't mean every product, but like a lot of people only polybag the stuff that Amazon tells them to polybag.
Yeah.
But we didn't do that. We used to polybag everything that, like, the help videos from Amazon told you to polybag. So even if it was a plush toy and Amazon didn't tell you to polybag it, some people just don't polybag it, but we always did.
Always did, yeah.
So we always used to polybag stuff. But I think ultimately, I just think Amazon make a lot of mistakes. So you could take a photo of everything, you could do this, you could do that, but ultimately you're creating extra work for yourself, extra steps for yourself. I think you should do everything as well as you can. And accept that, you know what, even if you polybag stuff, Amazon from time to time might send you an email and say you didn't polybag stuff. But the key is not to jump through 10 extra hoops and slow your business down even more. It's just to accept that Amazon's not perfect. And you know what, if it's just one of them things, I think. How do you feel about it, Andy?
Well, here's the thing. I'm a bit 50-50 on this because there's things you can do. Kev mentioned on a previous Reseller Show that you can actually download the where we've got I've forgotten what it's called. Yeah, it's called Download SKU, which is in the inventory shipment file. So you can download a log of a shipment that's gone off, and you can sort of keep that on file as a bit of a proof. Which is probably not a bad idea. It's a relatively simple thing to do. Download it, print it off or something, keep it in your files. It was a great tip. Jonathan Hill's gone on one further, and this is definitely belt and braces, and you won't go wrong with this. But it's whether you've got to offset the amount of time you put into it versus what you're going to get back from it. This is the thing. So Jonathan says, what I've been doing from the 1st of January on Kev's advice on one of the Reseller shows is printing the download SKU file. I put it in Excel and tick all the prep requirements and numbers to the end to show we have a system in place. So ticking all the points, done that. Sign and date it with the time in black pen, and I have someone else double check, double tick and countersign in red pen.
Wow.
With the date and time also. So literally
wow.
No one's getting around that.
Wow.
Short of putting it in an envelope and posting it to yourself, you're pretty much done and dusted there, aren't you? So I upload this document with my invoice when I have to reconcile a missing part of my shipment. He said I had one on Saturday and it went through within 30 minutes. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. That's certainly belt and braces. But what you've got to decide with that, John, is how long does that process take? I mean, if you can get that down and you can streamline it, then all good. And you're certainly never going to get any trouble. But if that adds an extra 5 minutes onto your shipments and you're doing multiple shipments and you want to scale, that could really start to slow you down. And how many times are Amazon going to argue with you to the point where they're not going to do anything? Because the other thing you could do when you get something like that is just to contact Seller Central anyway and put in a request and say, I did polybag it. I definitely did, and just throw it back to them and say, can you resolve that dispute because I did do it, and just let throw it back to them and see if they do.
You know what I think? Sorry, Andy. You know what? You know what I think. The key point to take away from this is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Ultimately, I know Amazon is kind of the primary e-commerce marketplace, and it's probably your primary avenue for business. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. If all your income is in Amazon's basket, there's one guy that might make a wrong decision in an office somewhere that doesn't care about you or your business and can click a button and you go away. Simple as that. And then you're fighting for your livelihood back. So ultimately, it's a big wide world out there. There's lots of marketplaces. There's lots of different things you can do online to make money. So ultimately, when you've got a nice little solid income stream on Amazon, don't let it be the only one. Diversify a little bit. I think that's the key takeaway. But sorry, I don't know if I interrupted you, Andy, or if you're done.
That's all right. All I was going to say is Attila actually commented on this post at the time, and he said, don't acknowledge. If you acknowledge that warning, then you're kind of putting your hands up and saying, okay, yeah, I did it, if you acknowledge it. And it could potentially negatively affect your inbound performance. I don't know how much, but yeah, it could be like a down tick on things if you actually acknowledge it. But it's kind of it's a relatively small thing. If you got lots of them, it would add up and they would have a problem. But it's a fair point. If you don't acknowledge it, but actually open a case and say, I definitely did it, and then ask them to remove the shipment problem in the first place, then you can sideswipe that altogether, and you can just say, can you remove that because it's erroneous? I did polybag them, and throw it back to them to investigate. I don't know, maybe the polybags got taken off somewhere, or something happened, or they got, oh, actually no, they did have polybags, it was just one that didn't, or something. So that's a good tip to just, before you acknowledge it, open a case and speak to them and say, no, I definitely did, and see if you can get them to remove. Worst case scenario, if they still stick to it and say, we're not going to remove it, then you have to acknowledge it and move on. But it's a minor thing. And as I say, you've really got to sort of weigh up. It's not a major thing. It doesn't happen that often. So you've got to weigh up whether it's worth the extra effort to, just in case, because you could take a picture of every single box that goes out the door with the date and time in the picture to prove when it was done and everything else like that, and then put that in an envelope and send it to yourself with a postal stamped address and whatnot. But I mean,
hashtag Amazon selfie with your boxes in the background. You could always just message them and say, look, seller support, do you know I know Jeff? You could just do that. Do you know who I am? I know Jeff Bezos. You might buy it. You never know.
Yeah,
I've got Jeff's email.
Yeah.
Jeff at Amazon.com.
Before I email my mate Jeff and get him on the phone, shall we sort this out?
I'm going to tell Jeff on you.
Yeah.
Now, they make mistakes. Amazon make mistakes. Yeah. So you might have polybagged them. They make mistakes. I've got a ton of maybe we sold them on Facebook Marketplace. I think we did. But I don't know if I can't remember. But I've got tons of stock in my old garage I never sent in. They've returned somebody else's stock. So it's like you'll get somebody else's stock on your account, and then sometimes some of your stock will go missing, and that's gone to somebody else's account, and they're a little bit all over the place. As far as Amazon goes, from a customer-facing point of view, they're excellent. Everybody agrees with that near enough. But from a seller side of things, they don't always get things right, and you've got to kind of accept it. Ultimately, there's some hoops to jump through. I personally wouldn't be signing documents and taking photos of boxes. But again, I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket. If you've got all your eggs in one basket, then you might want to sign a load of sheets and take a load of photos of boxes. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it is an interesting one. I like the idea of just doing the print off and having that on file. To go the extra hog, I don't know, because to be honest with you, if there was a problem, there's nothing stopping you ticking the bits, signing it, dating it, and then getting another red pen and signing, dating it, and making it look official. Take a picture and lobbing it up there and then, because you spend the extra 5 minutes and you get your money back because something's gone missing with a reconcile or something. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's probably worth doing. But every time on every one, that, to me, that seems a little bit time consuming, but each to their own. You certainly can't go wrong with it anyway. So
I'll tell you what, it's weird. I'll tell you a little quick story. When I owned a nightclub, I only got sued once in the few, I don't know how long we were open. Maybe we were open 4 years or 5 years or something like that. But I only got sued once in the whole time. And that's really good for a nightclub. Usually nightclubs get sued a couple of times a year. I got sued once in that time. And it was by a lady that said she was in on Christmas Eve. She was drinking but not drunk. And she was wearing flat-heeled shoes. And it was like 1:30 in the morning or something like that. I don't know. It was clearly nonsense. And it was over 6 months after the incident happened when we first heard from their lawyers, which means we've got no CCTV footage of it. And basically the insurers came round and they said, look, did you have a log of your staff going round and saying the floor is clean? The floor is no slips and trip hazards. Did you have a log? And at the time, I didn't have a log. I didn't know I had to, because I didn't come from the nightclub background. I just went for it and did it. And I didn't have this log. No one had told me I ever needed to keep a log. But the point was, if I'd have had a log that, in hindsight, I could have created if I'd have known about it, like when the guy was coming round, if I'd have had a log saying, yes, every half hour, my glass collectors checked the floor, there was no slip and trips, I would have been able to, or my solicitors would have been able to defend me in court. But because I didn't have that piece of paper, nothing else changed. I just didn't have that piece of paper. And it was clearly not, I don't believe it was a legitimate claim just because of a few of the details, but because I didn't have that piece of paper, then it was a successful claim made against me, and I had to pay out the excess. The insurance company had to pay the rest. But yeah, so sometimes a piece of paper and a little bit of pen and, following certain systems and processes just to kind of cover your own back can actually get you out of some stuff. But for every story like yours you hear about them saying, you didn't polybag it, no, I did. No, you didn't, no, I did. I've never heard of a story like that before. It would be something else. So it would be something else you couldn't foresee and you didn't do some little cheats for. So I won't go overboard with it, but it's understandable to think about it, especially if you've established a solid long-term business. You've got some good money coming in. You want to do what you can to mitigate the risks, but ultimately business is risky. You have to live with the risks. You have to try and reduce and minimize them. But risks are part of business. That's what it is. Yeah. We take the upsides, we take the downsides. But that's it really. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, it's a good point to a certain extent. What you want to make sure is that your amount of time that you're putting in on something that may or may not happen is not slowing you down from actually getting on with the task at hand. That's for sure. Because if you spend a load of your money on wages and time putting in place all these hundreds of different checks to make sure that someone doesn't sue you, you could be spending more money on wages doing 50,000 different checks than you would on the money you could almost afford to get someone sue you once a year for the amount of effort that you put.
Well, I tell you what, making money in business is tough enough. You've got taxes to think about, marketing, stock, you got employees, you got warehouses, you got insurance, you got all kinds of things to do, selling and inventory, and you got all these things to do. It's like adding more red tape onto it for maybe this might happen, maybe that might happen. It might make sense in your business, but my guess is for most people, it's probably a hoop too many to jump through.
Yeah, I would probably say that somewhere in the middle is probably a better way to do it. Yeah. Simon says, cheers, guys. Well, hopefully that will give you something to think about, Simon. Sean is saying, I'm missing items in FBA. What do you do? So if you've sent stuff in, Sean, and they've gone missing, you need to reconcile that shipment and get Amazon to go and check and see what's happened, and that's called a reconcile. You need to go into your Amazon Seller Central, go into your shipments, find the shipment where the items when they came in, and there's an option there to reconcile that, and you give Amazon the details of what's been going on, and they will then check and find out where that's got to. It may have got lost or something like that. So they will put in a place to check and see if they've got no log of it and they've got no way of finding it, then they'll generally pay it out to you. You can also open a ticket with Seller Central and let them know, but they will want to know which shipment it came in on. So you'll need your shipment ID to start off that process, Sean. But it's quite straightforward, and it's a good idea to keep an eye on things coming in and making sure that they all make their way into the inventory, because Amazon do make mistakes from time to time. So it's good to keep an eye on things and make sure that everything arrives that you've sent, just to make sure, because you could easily lose bits and pieces. So yeah, that's it. Has anyone else got any questions while we're on this sort of a subject? I know that some people were having some technical issues. They were coming out to Webinar Jam and couldn't see the video, but hopefully they've made it over to YouTube to actually find the chat on that side. But if anyone's got any questions for us for this evening, then
just going on from that, Andy, just that last point, I find that if you've got to watch every unit. If you don't watch every unit with an Amazon-based business or Amazon-based sales channel, whatever you want to call it, but if you don't watch every unit, it's typically that kind of thing that's going to reduce your profits significantly. It only takes a few mistakes, a few lost units here, a few this, a few that, and before you know it, the profit you thought you were making, you're not making anywhere near as much. So the way my mind works, doesn't lend itself to being super analytical and super kind of watching every unit. I think if you've got one of those minds that you can, and you chase every unit, like where is that one unit? I think if you've got that kind of mindset, that's how you win on Amazon. I'm a bit too much like, send 1,000 in. If we lose 100, who cares? But that's my gung-ho kind of attitude to business, but it doesn't really work on Amazon that way. You've got to watch every unit. You've got to watch every return. You've got to chase Amazon up. If they only give you X for something and you think they should have give you X plus 3, you chase them and you say, where's my X plus 3? Ultimately, that is a massive leakage in this business model. If you've not got that kind of, that steadfast, I will watch every unit, I will kind of reconcile everything. You've got to have that mindset. Definitely, 100%.
Definitely worth putting a procedure in place on a weekly or monthly basis, just to double check and spend some time sort of cross referencing and ticking those off that come in for that reason. Matt, you're absolutely right.
Did you almost say again?
I'm still 100%. I'm still 100%.
Yes.
There was a couple of seconds there, but I'm still good. I've still got my record. But no, we're on a Monday night, and we're doing what me and Kev do. So yes, it's amazing that I'm going to be ruined for life. I'm just never going to be able to say your name properly after this. It's too confusing for my limited brain. But
have we got any questions? Is there any questions?
Yeah, it's Sean's asking, what's the difference between sole trader and limited company? Oh God. Okay, so very, very quickly. I mean, it's not really an Amazon or reseller question, but the difference between sole trader and limited is limited liability. So it means that you are a business entity, so to speak, and it takes the liability of the business away from you personally and into a company. You become a director of a company rather than it's you. If anything happens with a business and you're a sole trader and there are debts in the business or something happens, you are personally responsible as a sole trader, because it's you trading as the business, whereas a limited company, you are director of that business, and if something goes wrong, it's the debts are in the business rather than you personally. Is that a reasonable summation, Matt, would you say?
Yeah, it's bang on. So basically, the law sees a limited company as a separate legal entity to you. So it is like a person in the eyes of the law. So it's you. If you're a sole trader, it's you, and your assets are on the line if anything goes wrong. So if you've got a house, if you've got a car, if you've got some cash in the bank and things go wrong and you get sued, as a sole trader, you could lose everything. Whereas as a limited company, your limited company is a person in itself. And if it gets sued, then the company could potentially lose everything, but it should stop there unless they do something referred to as piercing the corporate veil. If they pierce the corporate veil, then that means they could come after you like personally. But that's unlikely in most cases. As a director, you've got to have acted fraudulently or negligently or something like that. So as long as you trade honestly and ethically and try and do everything above board and try and be straight as a limited company, it does provide you a certain amount of protection. Now, for the more advanced people in the room that want a little bit of it, like a bit more of a bump on that, there are some ways you can structure your companies. It's not worth doing if you're just starting out, but there's some ways you can structure your companies whereby there's massive tax advantages to the way you structure your companies. Now, normal you and a company, limited company, that's not nowadays got that many tax advantages attached to it. I think there is still minor tax advantages, but probably not that much. But there are kind of more advanced tax planning strategies that mean it can be super, super, super better situation when you get a little bit further down the line. So my thoughts are, if you're serious about business, then set up as a limited company. If you're certain you're going to make this work, set up as a limited company. If you've got any assets, set up as a limited company. If you're just toying at it, you've got no assets and all that stuff, then maybe you want to dabble as a sole trader. Most people start as sole traders, I think, but ultimately limited company is the best way to do it. Having said that, none of this of what I've said or Andy said is legal advice or tax advice or anything like that. Ultimately, consult your own attorney, solicitor, lawyer, whatever you want to call them, tax professional, accountant, and satisfy yourself that you're operating legally and tax efficiently and all that stuff. Don't put it on me or Andy. But yeah, that's basically it. Limited company is a separate person. Sole trader is you.
Yeah, that sounds
which is exactly what Andy said, but I just flashed it out.
No, that was awesome. That was very eloquently put, Matt. Yeah, that was good. I'm impressed by that. It's true. Yeah, Chris says if you're serious, limited is the way to go. Absolutely. If you want to roll the business out, limited is definitely the way to go. There's a little bit more admin involved in a limited company, but it's well worth it. And if the worst case scenario happens, I mean, I can't think of that many scenarios in our world. There are several other business models which could be a lot more risky than ours, I suppose. We're not really not really racking up debts in this type of scenario. So,
it's not just always debts though. Again, it can be liability. So ultimately, as the retailer of that product, I mean, I'm not 100% sure. Again, don't take this as legal advice, but as a retailer of that product, I believe that somebody can sue you if they want to. But ultimately, I think they can choose to sue the manufacturer as well if they should want to. So as far as I'm aware, they can sue you as the retailer, and then you would have to sue the manufacturer or something like that. Again, not legal advice. I don't know. This is just vague memories of maybe rightness. But ultimately, if somebody chokes on a mermaid toy from Disney Store, are they going to sue little old you, or are they going to sue big old Disney? They're going to sue big old Disney, I imagine. So you're not
it's less likely. Yeah, I mean, I would add to that, if you are doing private label, for example, then you're importing it into the country. As the importer, you then take responsibility for that item. So there is more risk involved there. You then become almost the manufacturer for that item. You have more responsibility. If you're reselling something from Disney, the chances are they'll go straight to Disney, and that will be the route if there is an issue. I don't really think you'd be held responsible, but it is a good point. It's not just about debts and business going under with debts. There's liability in different forms. So as a rule of thumb, I definitely think limited's the way to go.
As a seller, the consumer's contract is with you. As far as I'm aware, again, not legal advice, but as a retailer, as a seller of that product, their contract is with you, not with who you bought the product from.
It's true. Yeah.
But typically, are they going to sue a man of straw, as the legal people call it, or are they going to sue the big boys? they're going to sue the big boys.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yes, in terms of the, as you say, the contract of fulfillment and everything, if there is a problem, they're going to come back to you in terms of safety or something like that. They'll be looking for where it was produced and how it was produced and whether it was produced unsafely and everything else like that.
If you're doing private label, you'd be an absolute maniac, in my opinion, to not do it through a limited company.
Absolutely. Or yeah. Private label is fraught with a lot more complications, and I said this years ago when I first started talking about importing, literally 6 or 7 years ago. You've got to be so careful when importing things from China. Even if you say, does it have a safety certificate? They say yes, it's got a safety certificate. They'll send you a scan of it, a photograph of it, and they'll do whatever they need to get the sale, but it doesn't mean it has. There are a lot of checks you need to go through, and it's your responsibility. And a lot of people take this on too casually and will bring something in, and if that's dangerous, then you are literally held responsible. And not just that, not just the fact you're responsible. Do you want to be the cause of injury to someone else as well? You know, what if someone gets electrocuted or is burnt or the house catches fire? You don't want that on your conscience. So you need to, you know, I always say if you're importing something, don't import something with a plug on it, because it's just a minefield. And I personally would stay away from that type of product because it's just not worth the hassle personally. But yes, when it comes to private label importing, you've got to be a limited company because there are a lot more opportunities to go wrong. That's for sure. Sean says very good points. Thank you. Okay, so Sean says an extra £2,000 a year tax-free under limited company if directors, I believe. I'll look more into it. It was £5,000 last year.
Yeah, but the thing is, typically, I mean, I don't know what average accountant charges, but a sole trader's accounts is usually quite significantly less than a limited company. So say a limited company accountant might charge you 800 quid to do your end of year thing, but like maybe as a sole trader they wouldn't. So some of that advantage might be swallowed up if you're paying an accountant.
Yeah, and there used to be that whole loophole that if you're a director of a limited company, you could pay yourself in dividends, and the dividends would be a cheaper tax bracket than wages. And so a lot of self-employed people that were working as contractors would do that and then just pay a lot less tax. But I think they pretty much closed that loophole. I don't know if you know that or anything. Matt.
Yeah, no, there's. I think it's still advantageous to pay yourself mostly in dividends, because most accountants would advise at the moment. Again, I'm not talking tax. I'm not talking law. That's all we've talked about, tax and law. The two things I never talk about. But again, just disclaimer: not tax advice, not legal advice, but. As far as I'm aware, paying yourself around £8,000 a year in salary, and then the rest up to the higher rate tax band in dividends is still a better, albeit not as amazing as it has been in the past, but it's usually a more tax efficient way of doing things. But again, not tax advice or anything like that. Actually, Andy, I don't know if you want to talk about the summit, but Mark Hawley, who's a specialist Amazon tax advisor, tax specialist, accountant, I don't know. He's going to be there at that, and he's just taking Q&A. So that'd be a really good question to ask him. So he's just going to be on stage and just getting asked questions and questions and questions.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be a really interesting Q&A period there, because there's a lot of very specific Amazon related questions, and a lot of accountants don't know Amazon and don't know that process. And having an accountant that understands Amazon and the whole process, I think, is quite important, because it's important to have your accountant on side and understanding your business rather than just going through the motions for you, because some of them are less good than others, shall we say? So
yeah. Oh yeah. I tell you what, the biggest mistake you'll ever make, guys, is just taking a random accountant. The difference between a good one and a bad one are night and day as to what you will manage to achieve. If I'd have known what I know now 20 years ago, almost, when I started, then I'd have made tens of millions of pounds more than I have. I'm not talking exact figures, but I literally would have made tens of millions of pounds more, because the compounding of the money I would have made on my money over that period of time would have been unbelievable, when the excessive amount of tax that I've got taxed because my accountant wasn't doing it the most tax efficient way possible and all that stuff is unreal. So what I'm trying to say is get good tax advice, get a good accountant. When they say a good accountant pays for himself, like they really do, but the vast majority of accountants aren't that good. They're very good at just saying this is what you owe, but software does that nowadays. You know, a good accountant will go, look, this is what you should be doing. And yeah, I think it's so important. Taking the wrong advice, bad advice, is so bad for your financial health. I can't explain.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. I've had some difficult tax advice over the years and issues with accountants not really doing anything other than shuffling paper, and it's very difficult when you rely on them to help you through this. It's one of my least favorite subjects. I dislike tax with a passion, but yeah, we all have to deal with it in our business, and it's better to sort of like tackle it head on and say, right, let me get this sorted, rather than have it swept under the rug and not think about it, because it will come back and bite you. So tackle it head on, find someone who will help you, knows about it, ask some questions, put them to work, make them earn their money, and it will be much better that way, as you say, for sure. Because if there are lessons to be learned, it will be costly to you and not to them. So it's important to get your ducks in a row.
We very much rely on our accountants to do right by us, to save us money and all that stuff. And I've very much trusted accountants throughout my whole business life. But ultimately, they've shoved some paper in front of you, ask you to sign it, and it's on you at that point. And 9 times out of 10, when you actually like dig into it and don't just trust them, you realize that like they could have claimed something they didn't claim, or they could have done this, or they could have done that. And I don't know, just honestly, it costs you so much having a poor accountant. I don't know. It's just one of them things whereby just get a good accountant.
Yeah, I would agree. Sean's asking how much you should pay for a good accountant under a limited company for this tax year. I mean, I don't know. You know the guy that's speaking at the summit, don't you? You've had some conversations with him. I think he would be a good guy to start off with, because he knows if he's taking on clients, that would be someone to start off with, because he knows the business. And I would call him a good accountant if he knows the business model that you're trading in. Then I would class him as a good accountant. So.
Mark's not my accountant, but that's not for any like bad reason. Like, Mark's actually a good guy. I've met him a few times. I've spent a lot of time with Mark actually, and he's a top guy. He's a nice guy, and he knows his stuff. He's really he is a good accountant. He genuinely is. It just so happens I met a really good accountant just before I kind of met Mark, and so ultimately my business is with him. But if I ever needed to change, Mark would be at the top of my list.
Yeah, and Chris says he uses Mark, and he's good and very reasonably priced. So there's an endorsement there. So definitely worth looking into, Sean. Now, we've been talking about the summit, but we haven't really mentioned about what's been going on. So as you've kindly spent the time with us this evening and given us a benefit of your experience, why don't we sort of talk about what the summit is and what's happening there and when it is, because
cool. Okay,
so might not know what that is.
Okay, so it's basically the Online Arbitrage Summit. So it's a conference or summit or event. It's a get together in the UK for online arbitrage sellers or people that want to be online arbitrage sellers. But basically, it's an opportunity for online arbitragers in the UK to get together in a nice event whereby there's going to be 8 or 9 speakers, and we've got the owner of a prep center coming, a couple of owners of prep centers coming actually. Kev's come in, so Kev Blackburn is going to be one of the speakers. Andy Lawrence of Wholesale Help, the guy right here, the legend himself is going to be there speaking about wholesale. You've got other speakers. You've got, like I say, you've got an accountant, like a specialist Amazon accountant. You've got a used books guy, Luke Pastor. You've got Emma Louise Hamilton's going to be there. She's a YouTuber. There's a bunch of cool people that are going to be speaking. And basically, it's 8 or 9 speakers. We're going to start at 10 a.m. in the morning, go through till about 5 o'clock in the evening. And it's just going to be packed full of content. We're going to have a couple of breaks and stuff. It's at the DoubleTree by Hilton, so the Hilton Hotel in Lincoln on the 6th of April, 2019. And yeah, in the evening, we're going to switch over to a different room, and we've got our own private room, and that's going to be a networking event. So that's from 7:30 until late. And then so basically, it's a day of talking and talks and speakers all about online arbitrage and and reselling kind of conversation. And then in the evening, networking. And as you know, Andy, networking is one of the most powerful things you could ever do. Rubbing shoulders with other people that do your thing. It's not your random next door neighbor but one, or your mate at work or whatever that's like, what do you do? Sell on Amazon. What's that? Ugh, and come out with all kinds of crap. People that understand what you do, understand the ups, they understand the downs, they understand how frustrating it is when them penny under repricers kick in and steal all the profits. They understand how frustrating it is when you get some notification from Amazon that scares you and it ends up just being some poorly written email. They get it. They get it. And basically, you're going to get spent all day and all evening, if you wish, at the Online Arbitrage UK Summit, talking OA. So it's going to be an amazing day. Like I say, it's got some great speakers there. Andy there, Kev there. I'm going to be there. I'm hosting the event. So Online Arbitrage Summit I'm putting it on. I'm not going to be a keynote speaker. The limelight is very much not going to be on me. It's going to be on these guys. I want to give them a platform to kind of share their message and talk about what they love to do and just basically help you guys on your online arbitrage journey. So, we've got Ed Brooks coming, who's from Source Mogul. So he created Source Mogul. Karen Hudson, who's co-creator of BuyBot Pro and Online Arbitrage Deals. There's all kinds of cool people that are going to be there. And yeah, that's it really. Is that a good pitch, Andy?
No,
is that
it's pretty good. Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it there. It's going to be a good evening. It's going to be a good event. And as you say about the networking, every single time I get together with like-minded people, I learn things, I have a great time, and I feel like I've grown as a person as a result. Because as you say, it's not just getting together with people, getting together with like-minded people. It's not just the fact that we do the same things. The same type of people have the same type of mindset as you are drawn together to do this type of thing. So you have a lot more in common with these type of people. It's natural. And so, yeah, I always have a great time. I put on events myself, and it's almost as the evening entertainment is almost as good value as what you learn at the event, because people have done this as well, and they may have figured something out with their business, and you're talking about this, that, and the other, and you mention something, say, oh yeah, I just do this and this. Have you heard of that app, or have you heard of that software? No. And so you learn something new just by chatting with people, and so it's massive. It's a big deal. And if you can get out of behind the computer and interact and mingle with people, it is always a good thing. It's a big deal for me. Whenever I get the opportunity, I jump at it and always try to meet new people. It's a really big deal. And I would recommend you come along.
It's how we met, isn't it, Andy? We met through a networking event with Kev. Yep. And like we've done a bunch of bits and bobs after. We went to the spring fair together. We've done all kinds of bits and bobs. We're doing this right now. Yep. And like Andy is very much a like-minded person. We get on really well. I like Andy a lot, and I would have never met him if it wasn't for that networking. So you don't know who you're going to meet, what conversation you're going to have, and who you're going to become friends with, or business partners with, and what doors that will open. So I think one of the most under kind of played things or underdone things with a lot of resellers, they go inside themselves instead of kind of trying to get out there a little bit. And networking is the thing that could change everything for you. So it's the 6th of April, 2019. It's a Saturday in Lincoln, Online Arbitrage Summit. I would love to see you there.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes if you're interested in coming. We'll put a link somewhere so you can check that out. And so we're all going to be there. It's going to be a big meetup for us guys. We're going to enjoy it. And yeah, I definitely, if you're looking to further your business and hang out with like-minded people, you couldn't choose a better thing to go to. So yeah, gets my endorsement, that's for sure.
Cheers, Andy.
No worries. Right, so we're at 58 minutes past the hour, or 59 minutes past the hour now. So we've done pretty well. The hour always goes quickly on these reseller shows. It's amazing how we get through a few questions, talk about the news, and all of a sudden we're an hour in. So
I've enjoyed it. Been awesome.
I'm glad. Thanks for coming and joining us. I've enjoyed having you with us this evening. It's nice to have a change of scenery. As I say, it's hard shoes to fill with Kev. To be honest with you, he's the one and only. So it's a difficult job to do, but you've done it well, and I've appreciated your company this evening. So
well, I appreciate the invite. I've enjoyed it, Andy. So thank you.
Good. Glad
and I hope, Kev, if you're watching this, I hope you're having a fun time. I'm jealous. Okay. I'm jealous that you're skiing and I'm not.
Mind you, it's been 17 degrees here today and sunny, so it's been all right actually for February. But anyway, rather be skiing, and some of that après ski wouldn't be too bad either. But
it might have been 17 where you are, and it's been minus 17 up north.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. All right, guys, let's wrap it up on that note. We'll wrap it up this evening. Thank you guys in the chat for joining us, Chris and Sean and Sam and everyone else, as always, Simon as well. Thanks for taking the time and chatting with us for this evening. Thanks if you're listening to the replay of the podcast, and thanks for your reviews and positive reviews on iTunes and all that good stuff. I appreciate it. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. We always appreciate that as well. Subscribe if you haven't on YouTube. And as always, I will catch you next Monday at 7 p.m. Take it easy, guys. See you later.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.